If you want to achieve mainstream success on the internet, the holy grail audience to focus on is the lower middle class. And this presentation will help you with your relationship with the middle class. And if you are already a mainstream internet person and you are trying to fix your relationship with the audience you're attracting, this is going to be really helpful for you. This whole presentation, this talk was inspired by the Riz Party, the TikTok Riz Party. If you haven't seen a TikTok Riz Party, it's just a group of kids that were at a Sweet 16. You know, they're white, they're like a little cringe, whatever. They're having fun and they're just lip syncing to Carnival by Ye. And as you can imagine, the internet is flaming them and everybody's making memes. There are now subgenre memes within the meme that like would take literally like a master's degree in Gen Alpha comedy and memes to even understand, and I'm not going to unravel that, but the point is that these kids were having fun at a party. They were lip syncing, having fun, and the internet decided to flame them, and they obviously went viral. But anyway, this moment in the internet inspired this talk because I know that a lot of artists, once they reach a certain level, or creators, they're very ashamed of some of their fans. They're very ashamed of the fandom. They almost sometimes even want to nuke their community. And what I mean by mainstream internet success is that Gen Z and Gen Alpha generally is aware of you. They don't need to be fans, but they've seen you. And you have a large audience, and you're not a household name. You're not like Taylor Swift and whatnot, but you're making a good living, and you are basically known enough to where like a couple parents have had to interact with your content. So the goal of this presentation is to fix your relationship with the audience that you're going to attract. Once you achieve that, you're going to attract the middle class. And in order to control the narrative a little bit more, control the conversation a little more, you want to hyper target the lower middle class, which is the toughest to break because they're fucking brutal. And they are also the ones that influence the rest of the classes. This whole presentation is basically going to show you my perspective and how I see it. If this is your first time running into me on the internet, hello, my name is Ursus Magana. I own a talent agency and record label in Los Angeles, mainly focused on the creator economy, musicians and creators, and I basically help people make life-changing money with their community. Some people that we work with have had some internet mainstream success, and this is just my perspective on what I think are some pretty good things for you to know, for you to fix the relationship with your audience. And if you are in the middle of achieving or have had the mainstream success and want to get back into the wave, having this perspective is definitely going to help you. And so stick all the way to the end because I'm dropping like hella gems that, motherfuckers will want to charge you money for. And I don't need anything from you. I just want you to share this with somebody that you think will benefit from it. So anyway, the role of the people that have disposable income and disposable time are going to be the people that shape the internet, plain and simple. Mostly the people that have disposable time. So if you think about like the way that memes are born, right? Like, let's go with common sense first. Like something happens in the world and then a meme pops up. Well, if you have the time to look at something that happened and make a meme right away, just that alone is a message that you are someone that has the know-how, technology-wise. You are in the internet algorithms, and then 3, you have the disposable time to make the meme, right? So people that tend to have that disposable time are kids. So people from like probably like 9 to 17 years old, these people have disposable time because they don't have that many responsibilities other than going to school and figuring out if they're going to go to college or their little side hustles or whatnot. They are still sheltered by their parents, right? So these are the people that have that disposable time. And so they are the driving force of the trends, and they're also the driving force of the algorithm because they spend the most time on the phone. And so they're in the feedback loop. Their interactions influence the algorithm. They communicate with each other. They find millennials cringe. They find boomers cringe, right? So they're constantly like interacting with each other in private communities, but they're also consuming content all the time. They're consuming content in between classrooms, and in class they're consuming content like at all times, right? So these people, the people that are shaping the face of the internet are kids, man, right? And then now the people that are the driving force of the financial gain of this are the people that have that disposable time and have the disposable income, and those kids are the middle class kids, right? But I know that the middle class is like an illusion. I'm very self-aware of that. I know that there's really only really rich people and poor people. I know that people that think that they're middle class, they're really just poor because people are like extremely rich. I know that, and I'm not ignoring that. But while we have the illusion of the middle class, if you're a creator or if you sell anything on the internet or you use the internet as your business, you need to take the next 10 years and grab onto as many of that audience that still exists, because the classes are only going to separate further and further, and they have been for the last 30 years. So while we still have it, you want to build an audience here. Okay. And the second reason why I know what I'm talking about is not only because it's my career and I have over a decade of experience, but also because I was a poor kid. I was a kid that turned a lower middle class through the hard work of my parents. I'm an immigrant, so minority, poor turned lower middle class. And so I have a lot of experience in this because that's literally what I was. All right. So here's why I think the lower middle class is kind of like the holy grail audience, right? So they have less resources, so they're more resourceful. So when they have something, they make the best of it. Okay. They value social relationships because they can't afford things. So they value the relationship with their siblings more, or they're forced to hang out with their siblings more. They value the relationships that they have in sports, right? Like they really value people because they're not out there spending this money, right? So they really value that. They value status because they don't have it, right? So when you're poor, you don't have status. You don't have the status of your last name. You don't have the status of like what your dad, like what company your dad runs, what your family, etc. You don't have that. So they really value status. And why that's important is because as soon as they have it, they will flex it, okay? And they'll do anything to achieve it, whether it's save up money to get that Louis belt as soon as you touch a check, or they value clout because they know that it's a separator. If they can't be rich, they can at least have clout, and it'll be an instant separator compared to the herd. Okay, so they value status and they don't have it, and by not having it, they want it. They are the nearest to their daily struggle with their parents. So if their parents are going through working two jobs, whatever it is that they're working on, they're most connected to that daily struggle to their parents or their caretaker, right? Like their adult. They are also nearest to the community struggle, right? So if you look at, especially my immigrants, right? So like look at the Asian communities, like they're very aware of like what their community thinks is cool isn't gonna fly. Look at the Arabs, look at the Mexicans, right? Like I'm Mexican, so like we're very in tune with like what our community accepts and doesn't. They're very intertwined culturally. And the last thing is, yes, there are white poor kids. Okay, so if you're young and you're watching me and you're from a city, I had teachers basically make me associate white people with wealth. And it's been literally until I became an adult that I realized really quickly, like, not all white people are rich. Not all white people own homes. Not all white people are well off. In the middle of the country and in the South, there are a lot of like white poor people. Whiteness does not mean wealth, right? So, anyway, the last thing, obviously, that like kids that are poor and that are lower class kids, like they have a ton of time. Okay, so they have a ton of time and they're cool because of all their struggles. So the lower middle class doesn't have access to the higher middle class. But the lower middle class kids influence the middle class kids, and the middle class kids influence the higher middle class kids, and the higher middle class kids influence the trust fund kids. And then the trust, and once it's there, it's wraps. You know what I'm saying? So this is kind of like the little disposable income, like hierarchy that I kind of built. And so while poor people may have disposable time, they lack the financial resources to impact the mainstream market. So what I mean by that, like they might have the clout, they might have the taste, right? They might be running these meme pages, they may be running the fan pages. That's like all the like lower middle class kids. And the middle and higher middle class kids, they don't have that much time because they're forced into all these extracurricular activities that their parents throw them at. They're thrown into vacations, they're thrown into all these like things that they may not even want to do, but they just don't have that time. Okay. So yeah, the middle and higher middle class kids have the ability to spend on digital goods and services, and they are the ones funding the careers and driving mainstream popularity. So for the sake of simplicity, and if there are any Tyler the Creator fans that are like diehards, I don't mean to offend anybody here, and I'm not. I don't mean this maliciously. I like Tyler the Creator, and I think that this is like a safe example to show like what I'm talking about when it comes to like mainstream internet success. And this is also somebody who I watched grow as I grew up, because he came out when I was a teen. He was like the rowdy, chaotic dude in the rich neighborhood where he grew up in Fairfax, which is like predominantly a really rich neighborhood. And he was like the rowdy dude in the neighborhood that was chaotic and disrespectful and crazy. And then he evolved into this like iconic, like taste making, genre bending mogul type of dude that went number one, right? So I really saw his career the whole way through, and it's someone that I think is generally liked and accepted as like internet mainstream, right? So these are some of the things that helped him once he achieved that mainstream success, that kind of helped him stay in that wave in a pretty cool way that's not cringe, because I know that a lot of the times that's kind of the fear, right? When you have a mainstream audience, or when you are mainstream. And if you stayed this far, like, I promise you, keep going. This is going to be really, really worth it, especially if you're making money on the internet in any capacity. Keep going. Also, if you're not keeping up, pause this, come back another time. But trust me, if you are making any kind of real money on the internet and you want to continue to do that, trust me that this is going to be really worth your while. All right, so once he achieved that mainstream stuff, he was still making rowdy music and whatnot. But one of the things that really kept it authentic is that as he was growing, he really defined his personal style. So when it comes to fashion, he really almost didn't care. It's funny because he came up during like the fresh kid era, and he did take some elements like the snapbacks, like there's honestly like a lot of Latino influence in his wardrobe, but he kept it in his own style. And then as he got better at songwriting, which is pretty well documented, there's like some interviews where he even admits that he didn't really like any of his music.
I wrote a list down of every song that I put out, and I said, damn, I have 3 good written songs from my first 3 albums only. And I said, okay, let's change this. I'm gonna learn how to write songs. I'm gonna teach myself how to write songs again and really understand it. So then I said, well, to do that, what are good written songs? What do the people think of written songs? What is pop music? What is that derivative of? Oh, that's a hook. Oh, that's structure. No, this beat has melody. How did I not notice it? Oh, it's urgent. So that changed the energy.
That's another thing too. You have to align your art with your message and your intent. So like if you're actually constantly getting better, you need to make sure people recognize that. And then lastly, handling personal issues like pretty well. Obviously hip hop is very homophobic, especially when I was growing up, it was very homophobic. And as you guys probably know, there's like all kinds of things regarding his personal life and stuff, and like all the homophobia stuff. I think he handled it hilariously. He trolls people. He's gone on the radio to like troll.
Me and Flex looking in the index for buff net niggas just for some hot butt sex.
What made you go with that verse?
I don't.
Those 3 things are kind of like the trinity that helps you with your artistic integrity as you get more popular. And then the last thing I'll say is like a bonus, especially if you're a minority, you don't have to be the conduit or the window into your race, ethnicity / culture. Like you could make your own culture, and then you happen to be Mexican, you happen to be black, you happen to be Asian, etc. Right? You happen to be gay, but it's not like you don't have to like be the messenger of the gays, of the Asians. You know what I'm saying? Like you can literally just focus on creating once you create your brand with this holy trinity and you keep your artistic integrity intact, you can continue to be the window to you and to what you're representing. And I think that that's what Tyler's done really well. And the way that he leans into his community, like he knows that Emily's and Kyle's and like white kids and then some minorities listen to him, but he knows like the Urban Outfitters audience that he's attracted because that's where the money's at. And he's leaned into it by putting literally some of his stuff in Urban Outfitters. He put his golf store in Fairfax, which is like a really rich neighborhood. Obviously he's from there, but he's self-aware that like that's where you're going to put a store for that type of mainstream internet demo to support you. And also, if you look at this lineup from his festival, it's literally that meme of like when my playlist goes on shuffle. You got Fuerza Rigida, you got ZZA, you got Dominant Flight. Like all minorities love Dominic Flight, and Emily's and white girls love Dominic Flight. All the white girls love Rex Orange County. I think that I wanted to show that as an example of somebody that, in my opinion, is internet mainstream, has had some pretty huge successes. He's not a household name. Like, not every parent knows Tyler, the Creator, right? But he leans into things culturally, also knowing that the Emilys and Haleys are going to be supporting, and there's nothing wrong with that. So this is going to make a little bit more sense as to why this moment in the internet inspired this whole talk, is because, listen, dude, this video going viral says a lot about us. It says a lot about Gen Alpha and Gen Z right now, and I kind of want to talk about it. And I set it up by basically showing you what I see in Tyler, the Creator, and how he's been able to keep his artistic integrity while also attracting this mainstream audience. Okay, yo, thank you so much if you've watched this far. If you want a copy of this presentation, just sign up to the community. All the links are, you know where. And please subscribe. Right now I have literally 100 subscribers, and that's for my last video. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's get back to the video. So throughout time, ads have used visual, striking, interesting, unusual, and surreal and hyperreal things to get your attention, right? So that's what ads do. They show a POV, an angle that, or something that you're not used to seeing every day to get your attention. And the interesting thing is that the TikTok Riz Party, a group of 16-year-olds that are just having fun together, going viral, like college recruiting. Look at the college recruiting pamphlets and ads. It's a bunch of, young, good-looking kids having fun together and laughing and doing something random, right? And not caring. Obviously, these are staged by photography agencies and ad agencies. They're all paid actors, but those ads work. And also like mall ads, like Zoomies and like the mall brands, like it's always like a group of teens, and they got the one token black Mexican kid, and they're like all like diversely having fun, right? So these ads exist. These ads work. These ads sell goods, products, and services, right? They really do work. And so when this goes viral, it tells me that Gen Z, Gen Alpha is so self-aware because they find us millennials fucking cringe. When millennials pose for photos, when we pose for travel pics, when we take literally the same picture as our fellow millennials because we go into debt to travel somewhere to take the one photo that the other girl took. When we stage these moments, like Gen Z and Gen Alpha find that shit so fucking cringe, but that they also find themselves cringe that when kids are genuinely just fucking lip syncing and having fun and not giving a fuck. Like, I know that they didn't film this thinking it was going to go on TikTok. I know they didn't film this with that intention because it's horizontal. No one filmed it on the phone. They're just being documented at a Sweet 16. If a group of kids having fun goes viral, it tells you everything we need to know. And they're getting flamed. It tells you everything you need to know. It tells you that a group of kids genuinely having fun is unreal. It's hyper realistic. It's thumb stopping. It's like, that doesn't happen every day. It's what? Unusual. It's unusual. Now it's unusual for you to like be in a group of friends and genuinely having fun and not giving a fuck whether this video goes up on TikTok or anywhere because you didn't even know it was going to go on TikTok. It's being filmed horizontally. So the commentary on this is that now a group of friends having fun is something that we're not used to seeing every day, and that's sad. So Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're very self-aware. They're using avatars, not their face, as the avatars. They're hiding their identity. They're creating fan pages, right? They try to develop their personality through fan pages or through interacting anonymously on the internet because they're so self-aware. They're self-aware that the internet's forever. They're also self-aware of us millennials being fucking cringe, right? So that's why on the extreme end of their generation, these kids that are like really like instigating people on Kick Live and Twitch Live, like that's why they're going so viral, because like it's like the total other end of the stick where like, yeah, these guys will do the most cringe shit ever because nobody's doing it, because Gen Z and Gen Alpha is just so afraid of being cringe. And so anyway, I thought that was like a really cool thing to kind of like think about, especially as you are building this mainstream audience. What that tells me is that the gap in the next 5 years, is live events and live interactions. Some of these kids, they were like 12 when COVID happened, so now they're teens, so they're ready to go out. They're full of fucking energy, right? They're also like socially challenged, right? Let's say that. And so, yeah, if you are attracting this mainstream audience, you have to fix your relationship with knowing that this is kind of like some of the audience that you're going to attract, and you got to fix that now because you have the chance to, by the way, not help these kids not be fucking cringe. Because maybe you, especially if you're watching and you were middle class, or if you're not a minority and whatnot, and you're watching me up until this point, maybe you were cringe at one point, and eventually bands and musicians and YouTubers that you like, maybe they got you out of being cringe because you started adopting some of their culture, right, and internet culture in general. So, how do you fix your relationship with your audience, and including the audience that you attract? Like, listen, follow the holy trinity of being true to your sense of style no matter what. Show progress in your actual art. Like, if you got famous on the internet or whatever, but you are not actually crafting an art, then change that and get good at it. Like, there's people that got famous on the internet and they started a podcast, but what they're crafting their skills as an interviewer. There are people that got famous on the internet and they started doing music, and now they have to craft their skills as a musician, right? So you got to follow the holy trinity of keeping it authentic and with integrity, right? Never lose your sense of style, show progress, handle personal issues with grace or with humor, lean into them in a smart way, and always take advantage of it. I hope that this example of these kids that are white and just having fun, and I think there's like a Turkish kid in there, and he like went viral as fuck because it's like, again, it's like a whole thing. I hope that this helps you kind of see that, look, the kids with the disposable time are going to influence the kids with disposable time and income, and those kids are going to influence the kids that have even more income, and then eventually it'll reach the trust fund kids, right? So look at New York. This maybe even be a whole, the statement I'm about to say might be a whole other video. Look at New York and the way that influencers in New York work, right? They're all forced to interact with each other because they're all using the metro. In LA, it's very easy to hide your rich kids. It's very easy to like separate the classes because there's rich areas, rich neighborhoods. Everybody's using the subway in New York. Everybody's kind of like interacting in Brooklyn. Even if Brooklyn's gentrified, like that's where a lot of parties are at, right? So these like trust fund kids are interacting with the lower middle class kids that like are showing them drip, etc. Like there's just more of a physical collaboration there, and that's why I'm looking at these like those like fashion communities and like look at the effects of like the opiums of the world, right? Like look at that, and then I'm looking at this where the gap is, it's in live interactions because they're just not existent, like building a community around live things. Okay, so look, at the end of the day, targeting the middle class is going to help you become mainstream. And if you have not become mainstream, it's because now I'm telling you, you have to fix your relationship and be self-aware that you might attract this audience. It is what it is. And people with disposable income are gonna be cringe because they're not struggling. People that struggle are the people that are building a better and more authentic way to live. And so just be aware of that. So I challenge you to look at hyper realistic things that audiences are not used to seeing, like a group of friends hanging out together and genuinely having fun and dancing like no one's gonna see them. That's why these TikTokers, they come through and they hang out as a group and they make viral TikToks together. Like now that you're self-aware of this, think about all those things. So find the things that are hyper realistic, especially to Gen Alpha and Gen Z. What haven't they seen? Maybe they haven't got punched in the face in a show. Maybe they haven't crowd surfed before. Maybe like their heroes, which are just like gamers, streamers, people that are locked inside their house all day, or worse, people that are IRL live streaming and harassing people in the streets. Maybe those are the people that they're looking up to. Those people don't have healthy relationships. So if you can actually portray a healthy relationship, like power couple status, or portray a healthy relationship with your friends where you guys aren't like bullying each other and harassing the world, what is something that's hyper realistic, that's not common to Gen Z and Gen Alpha, right? Like young people traveling, young people living in a van, young people traveling alone to Morocco. Think about like all those things are not common to young people, man. Like young people, especially poor kids, they think, oh, you need money to travel. And there's a lot of lower middle class kids that are giving up their gap year to traveling around the world, traveling around the country in a van, right? Those are like hyper realistic things. It's not realistic to go outside and touch grass. So anyway, my intention with this presentation was to basically help you fix your relationship with the mentality and the spiritual blockage of something in your subconscious not allowing you to achieve this mainstream internet success because you're afraid of the cringy Kyle, wall punching white kid that might be your fan. I get it, but here's the thing. If you are following the trinity of how to keep the integrity of your craft and your artistry, if you are never losing your sense, I'm going to repeat it again, and then this is really valuable, which is why I'm repeating it. You never lose your sense of style. You are showing progress in how you're getting better at what you do, and you choose a craft. You have to choose the craft and get good at it, and you handle personal struggles publicly well. You could make that cringy kid not cringy anymore because they're going to want to be more like you. And I know that's a big fucking responsibility. And if you don't like that responsibility, you can communicate that to them to not be like you. However, you are projecting your culture to them. So maybe your culture alone, your sense of style alone, will help them connect with another kid that thinks that your sense of style is good. And then together they become less cringy, right? So just recognize that, and recognize that maybe at one point you were that cringy kid. And if you remember that and you can accept that, then boom, everything's going to align. Everything's going to align. At one point you were that, at one point I was that poor kid that I was doing anything for status. The moment I touch a check, I had to get the clothes, and I got into that whole loop of like buying clothes and buying expensive camera equipment to show my status. And then I was working my ass off to pay off my equipment, to pay off all this clothes that I didn't really fuck with. I just wanted to be in a different realm, meeting different people. And then eventually I met authentic people that basically helped me realize, like, bro, it doesn't matter. It's about who you are, right? So just remember, like, at one point I was that poor, cringy kid that just wanted clout. At one point, maybe you didn't need clout, but maybe you were just fucking cringy. Maybe your parents were racist, maybe et cetera, et cetera. Like, and then over time, by accepting other people's culture through your fandom, you became less cringe. The last thing that I'll leave you with, and this was probably the most important one, which is obviously why I saved it for last. And if you stayed throughout this, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. But the last thing that I'm going to share is that you have to fix your relationship with this audience ASAP, because who knows, that kid that you're inspiring might be a creator in the future, right? So they may actually be the generation that finishes what you started. If you started a genre, a music genre, that cringy 12-year-old in 5 years may literally be you, as successful as you or more, and they will finish what you started, okay? So I hope that this helped. I hope that you can be proud of your audience someday. I hope that you can be proud to attract all kinds of people, and know that even if you attract the mainstream middle class crowd, you are a filter that helps them kind of like become more cool. Imagine that. That's like a pretty cool visual to accept this. Imagine that you are this gate, this big door, and if a cringy kid walks through it, they become a little bit more cool. If you can accept that, everything's going to align. I promise you everything's going to align. So anyway, if you stayed this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is the easiest way that I could communicate my thoughts, and it's actually a pretty easy way. I'm just doing it through presentations, since I make presentations every single day. If you like this format, I'm trying it out. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay committed to this for the rest of the year because I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and it really helps me kind of like narrow down my beliefs and my theories that I've implemented throughout the decade that I've been in this space. And then lastly, if you want a copy of this presentation, I will gladly send it to you. Just subscribe and sign up to the private community. DM me in the page that I'm making for these presentations, and I will literally send you the PDF. And I will see you at the next one. Thank you so much.